This Feeling by LeilahMoon, read by LMX Mabella. Chapter 2. Seated within the familiar confines of the Hogwarts Express, Hermione was finally starting to feel safe again. The events that had taken place after the Quidditch World Cup were frightening and had set everyone on edge. Hermione recalled the moment that she, Harry and Ron heard a voice in the woods utter "Mos Modre," and witnessed the looks of fear etched into the Ministry wizard's face as they surrounded the trio just moments later. She was adamant that Winky had absolutely nothing to do with the conjuring of the Illuminous Skull, but no one would hear otherwise. Beginning to feel helpless again, Hermione was determined to claw back a semblance of control. Her current focus was going to be house elves and their rights. She was itching to get straight back into the library and start researching. Knowing Draco would be in there too filled her with equal parts excitement and nerves. They needed to have a conversation not only about the word he promised never to use in front of her again, but also his father. The Weasleys had talked at length about Death Eaters and their role as you-know-who supporters. Was Lucius Malfoy one of the hooded wizards using the Muggles as playthings? And what would it mean for Draco if you-know-who was able to return to his own body and full strength? Whilst Hermione prayed this would never happen, she couldn't shift the sense of foreboding that had lodged itself in her stomach. The Hogwarts Express eventually slowed down and came to a stop in the pitch-black darkness of Hogsmeade Station, finally bringing Hermione out from her reverie. As the train doors opened, there was a rumble of thunder overhead and rain began coming down thick and fast. 100 horseless carriages stood waiting, and Hermione, Harry, Ron, and Neville climbed gratefully into one of them. Through the gates flanked with statues of winged boars, and up the sweeping drive the carriages trundled, swaying dangerously in what was fast becoming a gale. Leaning against the window, Hermione could see Hogwarts coming nearer, its many lighted windows blurred and shimmering behind a thick curtain of rain. Lightning flashed across the sky as their carriage came to a halt before the great oak front doors. The great hall looked its usual splendid self, decorated for the start-of-term feast. Golden plates and goblets gleamed by the light of hundreds of floating candles. The 4 long house tables were packed with chattering students, and at the top of the hall the staff sat along one side of a 5th table facing their pupils. Hermione was enthralled throughout the Sorting Hat song and then its subsequent decision-making. She caught Draco's eyes across the table as the feast appeared, and couldn't help but blush. He was looking incredibly handsome. Through the low lightning in the woods, alongside his unpleasant words, Hermione had noticed the changes brought on by the summer holidays. How it was possible that Draco had gotten even taller, she wasn't sure. His hair was a little longer, and his wide fringe fell perfectly to frame his face. Although Hermione had previously teased him about his sharp features, he had grown into them. She shivered slightly, wondering what it would feel like to run her fingers along his angular jaw. It was Dumbledore beginning his speech that meant Hermione finally pulled her eyes away from him. Chiding herself for being distracted by a boy, of all things, she refocused. "It is also my painful duty to inform you that the Inter-House Quidditch Cup will not take place this year." Besides her, Harry gasped. "What?" Dumbledore continued. "This is due to an event that will be starting in October and continuing throughout the school year. It is my very great pleasure to inform you that the Triwizard Tournament will be taking place at Hogwarts this year." "You're joking," said Fred Weasley loudly. Nearly everyone laughed, and even Dumbledore chuckled appreciatively before carrying on to explain what the Triwizard Tournament involved and how to take part. Hermione almost sagged with relief when she heard that there would be an age restriction. She wasn't sure she could take another year of worrying about her friends. A few days later, as Hermione walked to meet Harry and Ron in the queue to enter the Great Hall for dinner, she overheard familiar voices arguing. Draco was flapping a copy of the Daily Prophet around while Harry had grabbed onto Ron's robes to stop him from launching himself at Draco. Hermione quickly jumped in to help restrain the redhead, and Harry smiled at her gratefully. "Good stuff, Malfoy," he said through gritted teeth. "Come on, Ron," "Oh, yeah, you were staying with them this summer, weren't you, Potter?" sneered Draco. "So tell me, is his mother really dead, Porky, or is it just the picture?" Hermione looked at him in shock. Even she was surprised at the harshness of his words. "You know your mother, Malfoy," Harry shot back. "That expression she's got, like she's got dung under her nose. Has she always looked like this, or is it just because you were with her?" Draco went slightly pink. "Don't you dare insult my mother, Potter." "Keep your fat mouth shut, then." Bang. Several people screamed, and Hermione watched a flash of red graze the side of Harry's face. He plunged his hand into his robes for his wand, but before it even touched it, there was a second loud bang, and the roar echoed through the entrance hall. "Oh, no, you don't, laddie!" Hermione, Harry, and Ron spun around. Professor Moody, the new Dada teacher, was limping down the marble staircase. His wand was out, and it was pointing directly at a pure white ferret, which was shivering on the stone-flagged floor, exactly where Draco had been standing. There was a terrified silence in the entrance hall. Nobody but Moody was moving a muscle. He turned to look at Harry. At least his normal eye was looking at Harry. The other one was pointing into the back of his head. "Did he get you?" Moody growled, his voice low and gravelly. "No," replied Harry. "He missed." Moody limped heavily towards the ferret, which gave a terrified squeak and took off, streaking towards the dungeons. "I don't think so," roared the professor, pointing his wand at the ferret again. It flew 10 feet into the air, fell with a smack to the floor, and then bounced upwards once more. "I don't like people who attack when their opponent's back's turned." The ferret flew through the air, its legs and tail flailing helplessly. "Professor Moody!" said a shocked McGonagall, rushing down the corridor. "Hello," he replied calmly, bouncing the ferret still higher. "What are you doing?" "Teaching." "Teach? Moody, is that a student?" shrieked Professor McGonagall. "Yep." "No!" she cried, now running, pulling out her own wand. A moment later, with a loud snapping noise, Draco had reappeared, lying in a heap on the floor with his sleek blonde hair all over his now brilliantly pink face. He got to his feet, wincing. Professor McGonagall and Moody exchanged stern words, whilst the students gathered around them exploded with laughter. Hermione could not believe what she had just witnessed. She couldn't see Draco anymore and really hoped he had gone to seek sanctuary in their library nook. Making an excuse to leave, Hermione slipped away. To be continued. Thank you for listening to today's chapter of This Feeling by LeilahMoon, read by LMXMabella. If you'd like to stay up to date on upcoming chapters and stories, you can follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, AO3, or Tumblr.